My name is Vivienne, and I'm a UB student. I completed 2 years of my college education in the UB Singapore campus and decided to come here to Buffalo to finish my last. I did not come alone, and sometimes I wonder if coming here with a bunch of friends I already knew would prevent me from getting out of my comfort zone. Are my concerns the same for everyone? Have we lived the full American experience? To investigate, I followed the lives of 3 girls who started on the same line as I did, all the way from Singapore.
People think that Singapore is located in China, which isn't. Singapore is located in Southeast Asia. That's, I think, the one misconception that a lot of people have about Singapore.
They assume that we're just part of a bigger Asian country like China.
Singapore is not in China, and yes, we do speak in English, we do think in English, and our language for instructions in English, okay? So you just don't think that we can only speak Chinese or Malay or like Tamil because we speak in English. Okay, full stop. Stop asking me that question.
My name is Tsang. I'm a 19-year-old senior in college. I major in communications and sociology, and this is my final semester in Buffalo. I think what made me decide to participate in UB Bound is, you want to have the real college experience. You want to not just go to school and then go home and then, do stuff that you only get to do in Singapore, but come to the States and actually have the real American college life. One fun fact about Singapore is that it takes you 45 minutes to travel from one end of Singapore to the other end. Yeah. One thing I shared with the locals about Singapore that shocked them is that Erie County is 3 times the size of Singapore. And then they're just like, what? How is it that small? So does everybody know everybody? But, I would say no, but I think the second degree of separation, everybody's just, there's one. If you click on anyone on Facebook, they will just have one mutual friend in common. It was definitely a little challenging to adjust to life here because, everywhere is very different from where you've grown up, where you spend your entire life. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was challenging in the sense that it's very different from home. Singapore is very fast-paced and it's really chill and laid back, and people are just doing things a lot slower as compared to back home, so that was quite difficult to get used to. I think the main difference between American culture and Singapore culture is that Singapore culture, we place a lot of emphasis on education, while a lot of American believe that you learn so much more outside of a classroom or away from the textbook, and I think that's a really good difference between us, and it's great to be able to learn from both sides of the coin because you wouldn't think outside of the box if you're back home, and here they actually promote creative thinking. I think the hardest part about saying goodbye is that they're not, it's even though you have Skype and you have FaceTime, you have all these technology with you, it's not the same as being physically near someone. It's just very different. Even though I talk to my friends once a week on Skype, but it still feels really, really awkward in the sense that we're really far away. We're almost 10,000 miles apart from each other. So it's great that we have all these technology, but it's just weird that we're not there together, and they're the people who I've grown up with. So it's a bit strange that we've all gone on different passage of life. And yeah, it's just kind of sad and weird that we're not together in it anymore. I don't think I'm very close to my Singaporean communities because, if you come to Buffalo, you spend $25,000 to come here and you only hang out with Singaporeans, you're kind of defeating the purpose of having an American college life experience. You have to hang out with people who are not people you're always used to hanging out with. You have to step out of your comfort zone. You have to make friends. You didn't fly halfway across the world just to stay with the same friends. So, I mean, I like to think that I'm close to some of them, but I don't think I'm very, very close to everyone else. My parents always say, you know, you have to live your life by yourself because it's your life. You can't just live it because you want to make people happy, or you don't do stuff because you don't want to, you know, make people unhappy. You have to do what you want to do. So I want to come here and study, so I don't feel bad about wanting something for myself. So yeah, I don't feel bad about leaving and, you know, going on a new adventure, as people would say.
Hi, I'm Ting and I'm 23 this year, and I'm a psychology major in my graduating semester, and I've been in Buffalo for 2 semesters now. I had a very positive culture shock when on my second day in Buffalo, and my mom and I were stranded at Walmart because the taxi drivers, you know, a few taxi drivers stood us up and didn't want to come and get us. So this white stranger, she comes up to us and then she rescues us, sends us home, and until now we're really good friends. And we got to know this big group of local Americans here, and they're just so generous. They go out of their way to help me because they know I don't have a car. And I think it's a positive culture shock because people say that the Western culture is individualistic and the Asian culture is collectivistic, but I think it's really a lot more similar than not. Yeah. Oh, one difference that I noticed very early on here in my college experience between the American culture and Singaporean culture is that a lot of Americans here, especially students, they don't really hang out with each other after classes. They may be classmates, they speak with each other, but after classes, like, everyone just scurries out and rushes into like doing their own thing, and no one really hangs around in the classroom to, oh, what do you think about that class? Hey, do you want to get lunch together? Which is something that we do a lot in Singapore. Yeah, so I thought it was strange, and then I asked one of my American classmates, I was like, oh, you guys don't really hang out, do you? And she's like, yeah, because a lot of us work, so we're either rushing to the next class to rush to work after the end of classes, or we're just rushing straight to work. And I was like, oh, okay, got it. I think there are a few reasons why Singaporeans are not able to really integrate with the American communities here. And I think it's just simple lack of opportunity, not because Singaporeans don't want to, but if you come in your group of friends, naturally it's going to be difficult to break out your comfort zone. And since you're already comfortable with, you know, with your good friends here, you just naturally tend to gravitate into doing things together, and you don't make an effort to speak to the American classmates that you have, or even just hang out with them or go out with them. And it works both ways. If you don't approach them, they're not going to approach you either. One thing I shared with the Americans here that really shocked them about Singapore is that they didn't know how modern we were, or that we are an independent city, state, nation, first world country on our own. And we have the highest cost of living right now in the world. So when I told them, like, oh, right now we're even more expensive than New York City, and they're like, oh, you must be really rich then. I'm like, no, we're not rich at all. Singaporeans struggle too. I think Americans tend to assume that Singaporeans, or maybe just Asians in general, are not as aware about the Western culture, and aware about, you know, American media, or just American culture in general. And one example would be when my housemate's friend, he's American, and when he saw like some of the tattoos on my back, he was like, wow, you're like the first Singaporean I've seen to have tattoos. I didn't know it was, you know, a thing in Singapore at all. And I was like, actually we have some really good artists. So he was like, okay, that's really shocking. I didn't know that about Singapore. I think finding love in a foreign country, especially for international students, is really easy. I know of a lot of international students here who get into relationships, whether with other students from their own country or other students from America. I think it's common, and it's very sweet because you're here and you have time to get to know people. You know, you're uninhibited by being back home and having to attend to family and things like that. So finding love in a foreign country is it's very idealistic, but it's not a bad thing.
My name is Debbie. I'm currently 22 years old. I'm from Singapore and I'm a psych major studying in UB. I think the people here are really amazing. They are so friendly and so considerate. The bus drivers always say hello to me, and at first it was quite a culture shock for me because in Singapore you'll be kind of like, who is this crazy person, man? Like, you don't say hello at all. But then afterwards, after a while, I decided, hey, why not be a bit more friendly? So I just started saying hi, and I think it gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling every time I do that because it kind of makes the driver's day as well. And you really rely on them for a lot of things, like if you fall sick, they take care of you. Yeah, you can only rely on them. Like, you can't really rely on the locals here because they don't really know much. My significant other is Sean Lee, and he is 24 this year. He's very handsome. In the army, he was a guardsman, and he's actually very fit. He's a very, very fit man. Yeah, he makes me very happy. He's working now, and the time difference is very terrible. It's 12 hours difference. So we don't usually talk at a regular time. Sometimes I wake up really early in the morning to talk to him on Skype. Sometimes I wake up at 7:30. Then he'll just rush home from work to make sure that he gets there on time so he can talk to me. If not, I'll be very, very grouchy. Yeah. I miss that he makes me feel like a woman, I guess. I mean, like, I'm kind of like a tall lady, so not many men can make me feel this way. Like, when he puts his arms around me, I just feel like I am so protected and then I'm so secure in his arms. But I guess that's the thing I miss most about him, the security that he gives me. He's quite a dependable man, so if I run into some problems, he will always be there for me. But over here I only have myself and I have to depend on myself. It's not that I can't, it's just that there's no alternative to turn to. There's nobody you can really talk to about it. Somebody who's really as close, I guess. So that's definitely one thing that I really miss about him, and that's just his worst part. Yeah. I guess I miss being around him, I guess. And the thing is that sometimes I can't really do anything if something happens over on his side, and I just feel very helpless. I can't really help him when I'm over here. I feel like he's the one giving more than I am because I left and he is just there, and I guess I'm just trying my best to give as much as I can even though I'm over here, but sometimes I just think it's not enough.
One thing I would like to tell America is that you guys are pretty cool. Yeah, pretty cool.
One thing I would like to say to America is thank you for your beautiful skies. Thank you for your diner food. Yeah, thank you for your diner food. I put on a lot of weight having diner food, but no regrets. And even Buffalo, you know, you're too cold, but your snow is beautiful. So thank you, and thank you for your hospitable and generous citizens. They've been very good friends to me.